Okay, so welcome back to the Dating Confidential podcast. I'm your host, Megan Toma, master coach who happens to love helping women in dating and relationships. And today I am here with my very good friend, Chris Bates. I'm so excited to bring some of our secret or private conversations that we have behind the scenes, like me texting you about all these different guys and what I'm going through in my life. And we're going to actually bring it for everyone to hear. So welcome.
Thanks. I'm excited too, and
Yeah.
they are secret
They
conversations.
are
But no,
secret.
they're no longer secret. I really enjoy chatting with you because I have the men's perspective
Yeah.
nailed down, and you have the women's perspective. And so it's interesting to see where sometimes those align and other times where we differ in ideas a little bit.
Yes.
So I think that'll be super valuable for people to clue in on.
Yes, two dating coaches that have a lot in common, but also you have some really cool perspectives on things. Like you make me think about things in a different way, and I really appreciate that.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
And that's a two-way street.
Thank you.
Yeah. So where do we start?
Okay, let's kick us off. So, when we talked about us doing this, we wanted to bring a lot of questions we've brought to each other, mainly me probably coming to you, but a lot of questions. So let's just start off with one that I think would be really helpful for listeners. What are some things that men can do specifically that differentiate themselves from other men and really show a woman, hey, I'm serious about wanting to pursue a romantic relationship and I'm serious about commitment? Like, what are some things that we can be looking for?
You know, it's hard to encapsulate them because there's so much, like, you have to know you're wanting the same thing, right? Like a long-term relationship. But let's assume that the man and the women are looking for the right kind of relationship. I say, don't give into common dating advice.
Yeah.
Right? The risk culture, the pickup stuff, it doesn't work, and it turns good women off.
Yes, it does.
And yeah, you would know all about that. And so I think it's interesting because you can be too direct, but you also need to be direct enough about your intentions, expectations, but you can't also just come into it like an interview. So there's a fine line. So I think the number one thing that guys can do is be playful, but also don't skirt around serious topics from the get-go.
Okay, so can you give us an example of what that might look like even on a first date? Would you say as soon as a first date?
Yeah.
Because I would.
If not
Okay.
even before.
Okay,
Yeah.
say more.
So let's say Brad is going on a date with Susie.
Okay.
And on the first date, it's like they're being playful, but organically a serious topic comes up like kids. And she's like, I don't know if I want kids. Then I think he should say, okay, why is that? Especially if he wants kids, but first kind of find out the why. And then secondly, don't be afraid to say, I totally understand. For me, kids are like, I'm really excited to have kids because of X, Y, Z. So you're like offering your opinion. You're not pandering to a woman because I think good women want men with a spine.
Yes.
But you're not being like, well, why would you want that? And therefore we shouldn't be on this date, right? That's too much.
Right.
So there's a happy medium there where you're being tactful but direct.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Yeah, it's funny. Long story short, I checked my dating apps while I was here. I haven't told you this. And this guy from a very old season of Love is Blind liked one of my photos. And I was like, oh, hell no. Like, I'm not going out with this dude. I'm sorry.
Because you've watched the
Yes,
season
I watched
and you
the
know how
season,
he is.
and he was nuts. Sorry. And but it made me want to go and rewatch some of the episodes.
Right.
And in Love is Blind, they were talking about how incredible the experience is because you're having these conversations so early on. You're talking about kids, you're talking about marriage. Normally you wouldn't talk about that until 3-5 months in. I'm like, how are y'all dating? I'm talking about it on date one. I'm making it clear on my dating profile what I'm looking for. Did you have all that on your profile too, or not so much?
When I went through divorce, uprooted my life, moved to Austin, and was on the dating apps for the first time really ever as 29, going on 30, I didn't know what I was doing. So at first, I went to the whole kind of like, all right, let me present what I think women want to see because then I'm more likely to go on dates. And then I learned very quickly that that's not a good use of anyone's time. And I was like, why don't I feel like I can ask for what I want up front? Am I overly agreeable? Am I not comfortable with myself and my life? So I went back to kind of revisit like, okay, what's my relationship with myself first? Am I living the life that I'm proud to share?
Yeah.
And then once I got that oriented, then yes, I got very specific on Hinge, and that changed the dating game for me because you're organically filtering people out, but you're also inviting the right people in. And if you're just general and you're not what would you say, courageous enough to risk pushing the wrong people out, you're also going to miss capturing the right people.
Totally.
Because finite, attention is so finite more than any other resource, I think.
Yeah.
And so, especially on the dating apps, it's so quick. So I think your profile needs to not be perfect, but tailored to who you are and what you want. And you can't have any hesitation, or you can't be bashful about that anyway, in my opinion.
6,000%. I say it all the time. The dating app is a vetting system, not a vanity metric. It's not to be the most popular girl or the most popular guy on the dating app and get all the matches and all the likes. It is to vet out the wrong people and, vet in the right ones.
And that's the correct way to use it.
Yeah.
But people get caught in this loop of maybe validation, or they see, surplus of matches or inbound likes or attention equals success, but that's not long-term success. If you want to feel good about being on the apps, but that should be a stepping stone into something that's a lot more permanent and worthwhile, I think.
Totally. Okay, I'm going to ask you something off the cuff because it's coming to me.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with my girlfriend the other night, and she has decided to get off the dating apps for a while. She feels like, I think the way she put it is she said something like, I feel like I'm shopping at Walmart when I want to be shopping at Neiman Marcus. I'm like, hello, thank you. I'm clearly hanging out at Walmart because I'm on the app. But it did make me think how proximity can be a real thing. And I think if you feel like you keep getting burned out on the dating apps and you feel like, wow, like the kind of men I want to meet aren't on here, you can waste a lot of time and get really exhausted by dating pretty fast.
Yeah.
If you're hanging out in the wrong place. Because you can go on a date every week. What'd you do, 50 dates in a year or something like that?
9 months was 54. Then I was in a relationship for 2.5 years.
Right.
And then I went on another 20 dates in a span of a few months.
And then met your partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But something about that still kept you there. Because I'm telling you what, if I'd gone on 50 dates from the dating app, I might think dating app is not working, you know? So what kept you believing in that?
That's a great question. Well, I was doing both. And I always suggest guys do both.
Yes,
do in
same.
real life, or in the wild, as I like to call it in the book, and the apps. I think Hinge is really one of the only worthwhile apps. That's a different rabbit hole. But I think what kept me there.
Maybe we should talk about
well,
that.
we should talk about that. I think what kept me there was I felt like, I'm getting closer. Like I went from a shotgun spread and no precision and being like, what in the world am I doing? To, I'm getting like, we're tightening the spread. We're getting more precise. And that progression and knowing that eventually it would all pay off, and that every date was again, I said stepping stone before, every date was a step in the right direction. That's what kept me going. I also am probably atypically stubborn, even for a man. And so I was like, I refuse to give up. And I've been married before.
Yeah.
I've always been a relationship guy. So I'm like, if I have to pay in terms of tenacity, I'll do it. Whatever I have to do, I'm going to do it. So, because what's the alternative? Right? Being cynical, giving up, not believing the worst in everybody. It's just not what I believe in. And so it luckily for me, it went against my view of the world to give up and to assume that everyone's out to get you. I was like, there's got to be somebody out there.
Totally. Yeah. Really good. Okay. So, oh man, I just had the other thing I wanted to ask
The Hinge?
you.
About why Hinge is the only
Hinge
app?
first. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you go. I'm curious why you think it's the best or only app, which is it?
That's the only one I use. I like the functionality of it. I haven't been on Tinder in 10, 15 years, however long it's been. It's the hookup app. Sorry. That's in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then Bumble, I don't mind Bumble, but I don't like as the woman going first. I'm more traditional in that sense. I want the man to take the first step and make the first move. So I don't want to be the one to do that. And it just feels like the people on Hinge, in my experience, have been a bit more serious.
Yeah. I think for looking for a long-term relationship, it's exactly that.
Yeah.
Because you can specifically state that on there. And if it's a verified profile, and their prompts actually give you an idea of who they are and what they want, it's a lot easier to shrink down your options to who you might actually get along with, who it's worth taking out on a first date from both a female and a male perspective. But you nailed it with Bumble. This is my biggest qualm is like how you do one thing is how you do all things. If you're a man and you need the woman to reach out first, then what does that say about you? Are you going to take the lead? Are you going to take initiative? Are you going to have a spine and a backbone when it matters?
Right.
Same thing from a female perspective. If you have to be the one in control, are you going to be able to take your hand off the wheel in a relationship and let that, obviously you can get too extreme with masculine and feminine dynamics, but that nice balance, are you going to be able to let that man step into the place where you're going to be happy that he's there? Maybe not as much.
Totally.
It's more of a probability thing. Like the likeliness, if you're in the state of mind, is that going to work out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hinge it is.
Yeah, Hinge it is.
Okay. All right. So now here's another really important question, because this is something, I really want to hear your thoughts on this. We've talked about this before. You went on 50-something first date, 70 initially to finally meet your person, which is amazing. And it sounds like you knew relatively quickly on date one, or maybe, as you've said before, or your friends have also said before, like within the first 5 minutes, you're like, nope, this isn't it. So I get that to a degree. I think men are very instinctual, and I think women are very tuned into their intuition when they want to be and when they've learned how to kind of work that muscle. And I have always taught, go on like a 3-date minimum, because my personal experience and a lot of my clients' experiences, when we're going from dating more of the bad boy or the toxic relationship, or we're chasing the spark and the lightning, normally on a first date, you're not going to feel a whole lot of that.
Right.
And you're sort of resetting your baseline and readjusting to what's healthy. So you may not feel this strong pull or urge or, crazy off the charts chemistry right in the first 5 minutes or on the first date. So I try to say, let's do a 3-date minimum, unless something happens on that first date where you're just a hell no. Because I do believe attraction can grow. But I don't know if you fully agree with that, based on some of what you've shared with me. So please say more to how you see that and what you feel about that.
First of all, I'm being set up.
You are.
No, it's
you knew this was coming.
I know, but it's such a good conversation. And I think you actually just gave me an iteration, an evolution to what I thought. And let me explain that. Because perhaps for women, that is the case.
Yeah.
And perhaps for men, 5 minutes first date is all that they need.
Yeah.
And I say that because I do think men, from an attraction standpoint, it's not just physicality or beauty. I think there's also how a woman makes you feel when you're in her presence.
Yeah.
And that's ineffable. It's very difficult to describe, but it's palpable.
Can you try? Can you try?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of when I went on my first date with Mallory.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I needed to perform or pander. I felt like
yourself.
I could be myself and I was understood instantly. And the more that I work with men, peace comes up.
Yeah.
And I think part of peace is not having to walk on eggshells or worry how you're going to be interpreted. It's someone rounding up, believing the best in you by default.
Yeah.
And I understand that women go through a lot. And it's difficult to sometimes give a new man the benefit of the doubt. But a good man is going to instantly pick up on whether or not that you are going to give him the innocent until proven guilty card, or the guilty until proven innocent card. And I don't think the latter is going to work out most of the time.
Correct.
And again, women go through a lot. And I think good men really have sympathy for that. But not everyone is whatever you might have experienced before. But it's difficult, right? Because people can get burned really, really badly. But I think on the first date, that's something I noticed with Mallory, especially with all the dating experience. I think it makes it easier, and relationship experience or being married before, it makes it easier to know in 5 minutes. I don't expect every guy to know in 5 minutes. Although after a first date, I think guys know deep down. It's just a question of whether or not they're willing to be honest with themselves.
So you've never gone on a first date. You've gone on second and third dates where there's been enough curiosity.
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't a hell no, but it just wasn't necessarily a hell yes either.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like, okay, there's potential.
Okay.
But I feel like if I have a compass to point in the right direction, that there was a magnet on it. And so it was spinning, and I need to remove the magnet to get the clarity on direction.
Okay.
And so for the almost 70 to 80 dates, that was first dates. There were about 8 second dates, and then 3 relationships from that. And the
8 second dates.
Yeah, only 8. So obviously there's more third and fifths from those.
Right,
But I
sure.
think I don't think any of those 8-second dates outside the relationship. So there's like 3 of the 8.
Wow.
And one relationship was 3 months, relatively short. The other was 2.5 years, and the other's been, 14 months now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a little weird, but whatever ended that 3-month relationship, retrospectively, could you see on date 1 what showed up by the end of that 3rd month that ended things?
That's a superb question.
Yes, thank you.
I don't.
This.
I don't.
I do this for a living.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up. We've
done.
done our job. I think not.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could have detected that. But we did have potential.
Okay.
And I think that's what's most important, is being honest with yourself. Is this something I should investigate further, should discover further, invest time in this?
Okay.
And I don't think you can ever go wrong, because even if it doesn't work out, you learn something valuable you wouldn't have otherwise discovered. And so the next go round, it helps, again, with that precision and knowing quicker.
Yeah.
So it's like the investment actually saves you time in the long run, regardless of outcome. At least that's my opinion. That's what I teach guys. But I don't know how you feel about it from, like, why 3 days from a woman's perspective?
I just feel like first, you only get one chance to make a first impression. And sometimes it's not always the strongest or the greatest, or you're both nervous. Again, especially if you have been through some really tough relational dynamics in your past, resetting that baseline is going to take a little bit of time for your body and your brain to finally feel like, there's actually potential here. There's attraction here, even though I don't feel the crazy sparks. So it's more of teaching your body that it's safe to be with someone who's safe. And I just think you can't know in 2 hours, 3 hours. I will say this, though, and correct me if I'm saying this back incorrectly. It sounds like on date 1, you don't necessarily know, oh my God, this is my wife, but you know if there's potential for a relationship.
Yeah.
That's what you're really saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Because it would be amazing and also ludicrous simultaneously to be like,
Correct.
yep, you're it.
I'm like, are we this psychic, Chris? Oh my gosh.
But I think men, I guess what I was saying is men know whether or not they should go on a second or more dates.
Yeah.
Deep down.
Okay, so this is what I want to know. Why do you guys stay for so long on a first date if you've already decided within the first 5 minutes, 5 seconds, whatever it is, this is probably a no for me? I get you don't want to be a dick, but why do you sometimes even stay for like 3 hours? Like, why not? Like, okay, you've had your drink, I'm out, or you order your meal, you're done, and you're out of there within an hour, hour and a half. I've been on dates with men. This is way like 10 years ago, but I remember we would shut down the restaurant. We would be there for 3.5 hours and never hear from him again. I'm like, dude, why do you guys do that?
I wonder, it's hard to speak for those guys, because I wonder if there was another reason that they're going on date, right? Like, were they hoping for more? Is it validation? Were they just lonely and they wanted company? Are they shopping around? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I try to tell guys, like, give them an hour, even if you know, which I know sounds counterintuitive to what I just said, but I think it's because it's a beneficial experience for both parties.
Yeah.
Let's say in 5 minutes, I'm on a date and I'm like, oh man, I really don't see this going anywhere. What's the alternative? You get up and leave and they feel terrible, right? Or you just stop it right then. But like, you know what? I bet you we can still learn something from one another that will benefit each of our dating experiences, and respectively, this will have a payout. Even if I can't see it now, I choose to have faith in that. And then it becomes such a fun conversation because outcomes are irrelevant, and you just get to connect with somebody.
Yeah.
And then if they like something about you, it's a positive experience. And hopefully what I tell guys is the woman will be like, wow, that was a nice experience. It raises the bar of their expectation for dating. And so at least you can leave everybody better off than you found them, even if a relationship or further dates don't come out of it.
And you would always close the loop. Like, you go on the date, it's a no for you. You wait maybe 24 hours and say, hey, it's great meeting you. I don't feel the romantic connection I'm looking for, whatever.
Yeah.
You close the loop.
Every time, because even with 24 hours, and even if you have an intuitive feeling in 5 minutes, there's this the process of processing.
Yes.
And so I think sometimes you got to let that play out. But for me, it was either FaceTime, call, voice message, something.
You would FaceTime them?
Depending on like how long we spent together, how much we connected,
Okay.
I would call an audible.
Okay.
And that's what I suggest guys do as well. Some women obviously don't want that. They just want to text and they don't want to talk about it. But other women will be like, wait, why? I thought we had a good connection. And I think as men, if you're willing to take someone out on a date, you have to be willing to have that conversation.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. I love that. And do you think women should close the loop if men have not read your book or been taught by you? If they don't know to do that, or do you think women should close the loop? Because
I think so.
I do. That's what I teach.
Why do you think so?
I just think energetically it's good to do that. And it's also good practice to say, like, it's respectful.
Yeah.
It's, I don't believe in any of the ghosting culture.
Yeah.
So I just think it's right to do that.
Yeah, I think men and women should both do that. However, it probably looks a little different. Like for women, if there's like a safety element, obviously like you don't need to get too explicit and anything like that. But if it's like you're not interested in him, or maybe even haven't heard from him, I think it helps you protect mental bandwidth and capacity for the right opportunities to keep the circuit closed and not let the leaky energy in there. It's like water droplets on a microchip, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just good to clear it out.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about dropping the handkerchief, because you blew my mind when you said your answer to this, because I'm thinking I'm such a great handkerchief dropper. I do all the things. And when I told you things that I've done, you're like, yeah, that's not enough.
Yeah.
How many flippin' times do we have to drop the handkerchief for you guys to get the signal that we're interested? Because, all right, let's give an example. If I'm interested in a guy and, well, I don't know if I want to give an example, because there's different ways I would do it out in the wild versus like someone I know. I want to hear your thoughts first.
Well, let's do out in the wild.
Okay, let's do out in the wild.
Give us an out in the wild example.
Okay. So if I'm out in the wild and I'm interested in someone, again, my like 95-something-year-old mentor, she would always teach the man speaks first, right? The egg doesn't run to the sperm goes to the egg. The man will come to you and he'll speak first. I was like, okay, sometimes I've talked first, but what I try to do is I will look at a man and I'll smile and then I'll look away. I'll hold it for about 3 to 5 seconds. Then I'll do it again and I will not break eye contact until he does. He has to be the one to do it next. Sometimes I'll even be like, come here, like you can come here. And that works if I give like the signal.
Yeah.
But I think it also does something if you hold it long enough to where they have to be the ones to look away before you do. It's a practice.
Yeah.
But sometimes that doesn't even do it.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's not interested. That could be possible too. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
So when we talked, I don't know, maybe I missed it. I didn't realize you were holding it and waiting for them to look away. That's a really good handkerchief drop. You know,
Thank you.
That's more like dropping a quilt.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's my whole bedspread. And the pillows and the duvet cover, everything.
Yeah, and I think that's great. But the unfortunate part about modernity is there might be some instances where that's needed.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different arguments, right? On one hand, women and men are like, well, if you don't have the balls to take an opportunity, like, is that the right kind of guy, or are you being the right kind of guy?
Yeah.
Fair question. On the other hand, post Me Too movement and with the way that technology is, guys are afraid to like get caught in the act for something they had never intended to be, interpreted of doing. And so they're on edge a little bit. So I do think they need more of an invitation than maybe they would have, I don't know, historically, for lack of a better term. But I do think that the smile and the eye contact is great, because I can think of all my clients and all the guys I've talked to, if there was a woman that they found attractive, alluring, whatever the word you want to use, and they did that at a bar or a park or, at the grocery store, the gym, wherever, they'd be like, oh, I should talk to her.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge. But I do wonder, do you think that most women are dropping the handkerchief to that degree?
Probably not, but that's something that I teach. I try to reinforce that. Women typically think, because the movies have taught us, first of all, if a man sees you, he will part the Red Sea and make his way to you, even if you're with a huge group of beautiful women. And it's like, it's not always the case.
Yeah.
It really isn't the case. Or if I just look at him one time, that's it. He knows. He doesn't. But I just remember the first example when I asked you about this, you were doing a podcast with your buddy Joel on Wife or Bust. And he was saying how a woman who he had sort of flirted with and she called things off or said, hey, I'm not interested anymore, something like that. She reaches out and sends him one of her favorite songs, and then sends him another text. And he's saying on the podcast, I was just like, all right, well, she's going to have to come to me again. I'm like, bro, she just reached out twice. To me, I would be like, well, he's not interested in me. That is my initial thought.
That is a different example.
Okay. Sorry, Joel.
Yeah. And I think no, he'll love it. He'll love it. He loves nuance. I think in that scenario, he had kind of pursued her and he had shut him down and she was making another pass.
Right.
So he was trying to discern, like, is this, and they talked about being friends, I think.
Okay.
It's like, is this her being friendly or is now she changed her mind?
Okay.
But from the first pass, I
fair.
think that's fair enough.
Okay.
But when in doubt, and I say this as a guy who's a guy's guy, I think men are great. But sometimes we have a very thick skull,
Yes.
especially when it comes to women.
Yeah.
So I don't think it can hurt from a woman's perspective to cover your bases by dropping a hint more than once and making the hint pretty obvious. And I think, again, a lot of good guys will take note of that. And if they are interested, they will take that opportunity.
Yes.
And guys who don't, well, they're probably too meek, or there's something going on, or who knows? There could be a plethora of reasons. And then there are some guys who don't need the hint. Now they're just, I think, few and far in between, and that doesn't necessarily that means that they're a good man. That's the other problem. Is the timid men are often very intentional and respectful, so
really
they're
good
afraid
guys. Yes.
to come off not that way.
Yeah.
And the guys who are very forward are often the ones who lack those things. Not always, but a lot of the time. Is that your experience with it?
100%. Yeah. The guy that's going to fight through the crowd to get to talk to you, I'm like, you want to talk to anything in a skirt, basically.
Yeah.
Like it comes off that way a lot of the time. It's like, oh, you hit on everybody is how it feels. So, yeah.
What, from your perspective, can men do to make sure women don't feel like they're just another number of someone who's being approached or just another woman with a skirt?
Okay, good. And I'm going to answer that. And before I forget, I want to know, too, from you, what are some things that women can say that communicates that they're interested, but also don't take that pursuer role or feel like you're the one being chased or hunted, right? But it's sort of like, how can they be that feminine invitation?
Yeah.
Okay. So ask me yours again.
What can men do so that their authenticity about being interested supersedes a woman feeling like, well, I'm just another woman he's hit on or approached or asked out?
Would it, like out in the wild, like we just
let's do it
met?
for that versus the apps.
Yeah. Okay, out in the wild, and I have no idea who he is. I think what I would want, like the first thing that comes to my mind is a man, if I'm with a group of friends, let's say, he comes over and he starts talking to my friend group. Maybe he introduces, his friends to my friend group, something like that, where it feels a little more natural and organic.
Yeah.
And then he slowly makes his way over to me, starts a conversation, and then just to me, he's like, hey, I really wanted to just come and talk to you. Different than like announcing it to the group of girls. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I wouldn't have ever thought of that, to be honest. What about when you're not in a group of friends? Is there anything that you look for to be like, oh, this guy's genuinely interested in me? I'm not just like the approach of the day.
Right. I think for me, and maybe this is fair and maybe it's not, I think it's something just felt energetically. Like I can tell if a man's being intentional. In fact, when I was volunteering at the Bridge this past weekend, this workshop, I had seen this man in the room a few times, and who knows if it's anything like he's hitting on me, but at the end, like we caught eyes a few times, and at the end of the workshop, he came up to me, he's like, hey, I'm so-and-so, by the way, I haven't met you yet, but I really wanted to. And I just liked that, you know, it wasn't, oh, he saw me on the first day and just went right for me, or I'm watching him, talk with all these women. It's like he just came up and said, like, I've wanted to meet you. Yeah. And it just felt genuine.
What do you think it was about you and how you were behaving that maybe he wanted to say that?
I was so in my element in that workshop. I was so free and expressed and having fun, and in my, I was serving, doing what I love most, and coaching. And I think men really are drawn to a woman who is just being herself.
And I wasn't leading the witness,
but
I agree with you.
Yes. Yes.
And because that's what I'm like, guys are like, well, where do I? It's like, just when you see her doing her thing and you feel drawn to her, jump on that opportunity. Yeah. Even if you don't know whether she's in a relationship or straight or whatever it is, like you don't know, but if you feel that draw, like I don't think you need to overthink it. We're in this land of AI and how can we optimize everything, but at the end of the day, I think our intuition and our instincts for men and women do often lead us to the best romantic opportunities.
Totally. And oh my gosh, this could go in so many different directions of how you can meet people in an area and in a space where you're doing things that you love.
Yeah.
It's such a fun and natural and organic way. But tell me first, what are some things a woman could text or say that clearly indicates that she's interested in you without feeling like she's the one doing all the pursuing?
This might seem like a cop out, but I think if you're in that position, like you're dating the wrong guy.
Yeah.
You know, like if he's not pursuing you, it goes back to the Bumble thing, to evolutionary psychology, to all of this. If the man isn't proactive, if he's not proffering things, if he's not initiating things, then what are we even doing here?
So you then would say if he wanted to, he would, kind of thing.
Yeah. Generally, yeah. Obviously, there's exceptions to everything, but I would die on that hill for sure.
Okay. So men who may be a little more intentional, and you're an intentional man, so I hear you. But for some of the men that might be a little hesitant or trepidatious or intentional, or they're worried about me too, you don't think that they sometimes need a nudge?
I think they do, and that's kind of or a sign. That's what dropping the handkerchief
but not
is.
a explicit, direct.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm in, like if you asked me out, I would say yes, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think breadcrumbs, not like breadcrumbing because that's like elongating it, like kicking the can down the road, but like a hint, a puzzle piece, a breadcrumb is enough of I don't think women should be doing more initiation than that. And I'm not saying great people haven't met because a woman started a conversation. I know a few couples like that, but I think a general rule of thumb is from a female perspective, if a guy doesn't have the courage to start a conversation with you, do you want to date him? If the answer is yes, then maybe this is an irrelevant question to you, and then you're fine initiating. But I think in general, those men lack self-esteem, courage, or maybe they don't want it enough.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Like they don't want it bad enough. They haven't felt enough pain of being alone or in the wrong relationship or whatever it is. And so like, are you going to settle for, men in this analogy being fruit, something that's not ripe for the picking or something that is, because timing is everything.
Yeah.
So to me, it's an organic filter that indicates whether or not a man is in the right timing to even, entertain being in a proper relationship with a woman.
What if it's been someone that you've known a while? Like they're in the friend group or you've met a few times, but there hasn't been anything communicated that suggests that there's a romantic interest. Is there anything a woman can do?
That one's a tough one, right? I forget what the study was, but they found that the grand majority of time, it's easier for a man to go from the friend zone to potential romantic connection, but it is not easy for women to get switch categories in a man's eyes.
Interesting. So once a man puts you in the friend box, you're kind of there.
Not always.
But a lot.
Something would have to change in a big way, and I don't know. I actually don't know what women should do in that situation, because I've always told men that, you only get one chance at a first impression. And if you want that to be romantic, then you should start there.
Yeah.
And don't beat around the bush. You can be friends first, and there's beautiful relationships like that. But again, from like a probability standpoint, I think it's better for you saying, hey, we can pace this out however you want, but I'm interested.
Yeah.
Can I take you on a date? And they're like, oh, I want to get to know you first. And you say, fine. And then you kind of organically go through like this friend phase, but at least they know your intention. They know that you're interested. Totally. But the other way around is just so much riskier because there's no communication, there's no expectations, there's no transparency. And I think it takes, again, courage is a thing we keep coming back to. Do you have the courage to ask for what you want as a man? Because that's crucial in and outside of dating.
So a man will lean more into his courage if he's interested in someone over his fear of rejection.
I think so.
Yeah.
Again, if they've felt enough pain to do it differently than maybe they have, or maybe modern culture says men should be, which I think is more reserved than men should be.
Don't you think a lot of the men you work with feel pretty alone though? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the men you work with have been through enough pain. Like they've been through the wrong relationships for long enough that they're really wanting support and meeting higher quality, or not higher quality, but just having a better chance at meeting the kind of women that they want to be with.
Yeah. Again, men are stubborn. And so I wish more men were open to having these conversations and applying themselves to dating like they do other things. But there's some kind of negative connotation for seeking help when it comes to women, as if we're innately born with just knowing how to communicate.
You're supposed to know.
I know,
right.
but it feels like different languages. So how do you speak a language you never learned?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me. But, men will go for whether it's like vocational training or sports or learning about finances or how to fix a car. They will eat humble pie and learn from an expert or a mentor or even just try to educate themselves all day long, but they don't with this.
I know.
And they're like, no, I got it. Without any experience or without.
You don't got it, bro. You don't got it.
Yeah, you got to
And
watch
it's
the game
okay.
footage, ask a metaphorical coach or a literal coach or
Right.
whatever. But I think now we are, like with my clients, as you were saying, there is a certain pain threshold, and I wish that they had decided to start sooner, because once you do focus and you invest, you shorten that timeline.
Totally.
And you reduce the pain. But sometimes it's good to feel a certain amount of pain in order to understand the value of doing something differently.
Totally.
I don't know if it's the same on the female side for you or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a lot of my women come to me because they're so brilliant. They're so brilliant. They're so successful. They're so beautiful. They're incredible women. And then for whatever reason, they're like, why can't I figure out this thing yet? And they've been in a lot of the wrong relationships. That's been my story too. So I'm actually, I want to share a dating story, and I want to get your 2 cents on it. We've talked about it behind the scenes, but I'm going to bring it on here, and I want to hear your thoughts. I've told you recently I've experienced something sort of like the terrible twos, where I had a really wonderful, enjoyable first date. And then by date 2, as I like to say, they show their ass. Like they just do something where I'm just like, whoa, did not see that coming.
Yeah.
Again, based on our logic earlier, on that first date, I would think, man, this is potential to be a beautiful relationship. Then by date 2, I learn not so much. And I'm normally pretty good at picking that up by date 1. Even before a date, I can normally pick it up. I did not pick it up this time. But, it took me 2 dates, so I'm not going to be too hard on myself. So I'll tell you one story. So I go on a date with this man who...
I noticed you hesitated because you're like, do I call him a boy?
I was also, dude.
Dude.
This dude.
Bro.
This total bro. I go on a date with this man, and we had a really lovely first date. It was maybe, 2.5 hours. Felt, a little longer than normal, but healthy. At one point, he asked me, like, what's your biggest fear? And I was like, that I don't get to be a mom one day. What's your biggest fear? That I don't feel like I'm enough. Like, we were talking about real stuff,
Deep
which
stuff.
I do what I do. So it's normal for me. So great first date. We go out on our second date, and we sit down, and he tells me about this drink to order. About to tell this story on the podcast. Great. Okay. He tells me about this drink to order, and there's an edible flower in the drink. And he says, when you eat the flower, it makes your mouth numb. And I was like, oh, but does it make it dry? Because I hate that sensation. He's like, no, it's actually the opposite. It actually creates more saliva. It almost makes it more wet. Maybe you could guess where this is going. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. I'll try anything once. So I tried it. And I was like, I don't like this sensation, but I like the drink. So I kept it. He's like, okay, I'll get one too. And he gets it, and he eats the flower. And he looks at me dead serious and like rubbing his little beard. And he's like, my mouth's all wet. This is reminding me of something. And I froze. I was like, this man did not just say that, and he's being dead serious. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, my mouth's all wet. This is really reminding me of something. Said it one more time too, because I was just like, and
he was expecting you to respond in a different way.
To be like, oh, let's get out of here and just take me back. Like, what are you expecting?
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, okay, so you're testing my boundaries right now. You're seeing how far you can go on date 2. And I even said to him, it's our second date, and I move really slow. And jokes like that don't exactly fly with me. And then he laughs, and he's like, oh, it's no big deal. Try to play it off.
Yeah.
Do you agree that he was trying to test boundaries? And yeah, like what the hell do you think he was thinking?
I I don't know if I would have phrased it as
Okay.
testing boundaries, but perhaps that's part of it. I mean, if I were to make a guess, I would wager, yeah, he was trying to expedite your timeline.
Yes.
And I do think on average women are more agreeable than men. And if maybe that's succeeded for him in the past, not saying he's doing it for the right reasons,
Yeah.
but this might be his playbook, unfortunately.
Right.
But I think
Playbook.
I think the best thing you can do as women, because it is great to be playful and unassuming, but then when you have your hard boundaries, it's like a man should never bend those.
Yeah.
And so I think you did I mean, I know you know that, but I think you did the right thing there.
I just think
And
it
what
was
happened?
crass. Like,
It
you
is.
can be flirty and make innuendos or a double entendre, and I will find it amusing and clever, but
Yeah.
that was just crass.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I would agree with that. And I do think that there's probably a certain number of dates where you even consider making a
Yes.
joke like that.
Yes.
Or if not, even number of dates a certain level of depth.
Yes.
And I don't think that's the time to do it.
No.
Yeah.
Not
So what happened after that?
Walked me out and gave him a hug, and that was it. I sent
Yeah.
him a message. I was like, hey, I enjoyed meeting you, and this is no.
Did
for
you
me.
tell him why?
No.
No, yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, and that's where it goes back to safety or whatever. It's like you're
Yeah.
not trying to trigger a guy. You don't necessarily need to explain yourself. But I was just curious if you had.
I considered asking him if he'd be open to feedback. And men that I've dated longer, like a man that I dated for 3 months, and I called it off, and he said, "Will you tell me why?" I said, "Are you open to real feedback?" And he said, "Yes, I really do want to
Yeah.
know." Then I will give it. But I've learned, like, you don't just give feedback when it's unwelcomed.
Yeah.
And that's not just with men. I think that's with everybody.
I think that's
I just
true.
don't do that.
That's really beautiful that you asked that.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're asking permission, but it goes back to the why would you stay on a first date? It's the same thing but different. It's you help everyone get better
Yeah.
at dating and more comfortable with saying the truth. And I know we're zooming out big time here, but I think one of the biggest issues in the dating world is that we collectively have begun to accept false niceties. We have skirted away from the truth.
Yeah.
And we have skirted away from being direct, even when it's in the long-term benefit. We become short-sighted.
Yep.
And we're like, I don't want to rub anyone the long way. Well, you're really kicking them in the pants down the road.
Correct.
And I would rather, I think everyone maybe not in the moment, but retrospectively would rather hear the truth and have some feedback or information or some things to marinate on than the lack thereof or a lie, even if it's a little lie.
Yes.
But navigating that conversation like you did, I think is perfect because people maybe not be open to that, and that's their call.
Right.
But I like that a lot because I think, like, pause and think about how the dating world would change if everyone adhered to a few simple principles.
Seriously.
And one of those is, okay, offer feedback and only share it if they accept it.
Yeah.
And make that feedback honest and be honest with your intentions.
Yeah.
And never ghost anyone. Always close the loop. And I mean, there's more principles in the book, but I think those three would completely change everything negative we hear about the dating world.
Yeah.
And if people don't like the dating world, then start doing those three things. Because your ripple of influence is much more powerful than you think.
Yeah.
And I think the pendulum is swinging this way anyway because people are tired of all of this acting and this disingenuity. Is that a
Yes.
word?
Yeah.
The lack of authenticity in the
Yeah.
dating world,
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. And I've never really thought about it like that before, but what a different culture we would create, even if we were just open to feedback. I love feedback. It used to scare me. I'm like, oh God, what are they going to say?
Yeah.
Like, what do you see in me that I don't want to see, or what's going to be reflected back? And just because someone shares feedback doesn't mean it has to resonate,
Or
it
be
doesn't-
true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's you feel it out. But feedback, that's something I've learned over the last several years in coaching, and it is so beneficial. So I love giving it if it's welcome, and I
Yeah.
love receiving it. And if that hadn't ended like it had, like my next relationship, if it's longer in any stretch, I will want that feedback. Like,
Yeah.
hey, what worked for you? What didn't? I don't know
Yeah.
if you've ever done this, but I've interviewed a lot of my ex-boyfriends before. I have. I've asked, like, what is the best thing about dating me? What was the hardest thing about dating me?
Yeah.
And they've told me.
I haven't interviewed any of my ex-boyfriends.
Darn.
but because I haven't had any.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's really lovely. And it's interesting. You would think, because generally men ask for feedback more, again,
Yeah.
generally.
Yeah.
But I found in a lot of the loops I closed, especially if it was a pleasant first date, I got hit with the, well, tell me why you don't see a future, why you don't want to go on a second date. And the first time I wasn't prepared.
Ooh.
But I just made a pact with myself. I was like, I need to find a tactful, productive way to share the truth.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to like say anything mean or condescending, but I'm also not going to not say the truth in some form.
Sure.
And that actually made the experience a lot better for me as a man. And so I tell men, like, be prepared.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to explain yourself, but I think women that you take on a date, even if it's one date, deserve that answer if they choose to ask, but you let them decide if they want to ask for that or
Sure.
not. And I was surprised at how many women wanted even
I'm
after
proud
one
of
date.
them for doing that.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah.
But that's why I was taken aback. I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was,
was
again,
gonna
I've been
come.
married and I was getting back in the dating world. So I
Right.
was like, oh, maybe this is something that I should have, like, be prepared for and have a really productive way of communicating, because this is
really
probably going to
great.
happen again.
Yeah. There's a way to be direct and kind at
Yeah.
the same time. Yeah. Come to think of it now, when I've sent the text saying, like, I'm no longer interested, I did not say this to this last gentleman, but in most cases, I will send a text saying, if it's after a first date, I won't say this, but if we spent like 3 dates or more together, I will say something like, this is a no for me. Here's why. And if you'd like to have a conversation to discuss more, I'm totally open. And men have said, yeah, I want a phone call. Okay, great.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't. Like you said earlier with women, they just want the text and that's it.
Yeah.
But I want to offer that if there's room for a conversation to talk about what didn't work.
Yeah.
And normally it's not anything personal about them. It's about how I feel. Some
Yeah.
of my feedback has been, I can't name exactly what it is, but I'm really learning to trust my intuition, and I'm just going with that. And
Yeah.
this feels like a no to me.
That's so well said.
Yeah.
I was reflecting while you were saying that on some of the closure conversations that happen after a relationship was over. I don't think I offered it as well as you did. I was much younger, but I've had multiple conversations with my ex-wife and then a woman I dated for 4 years through my whole college career after the fact. And I think that's really beautiful. Obviously, there's a lot of people say, well, what about slipping back into old habits or a relationship? For sure, like, you need to be wary of that. But I mean, I used to meet up over coffee because, again, I'm so stubborn. When something changes for me, that's it. There's no going back. There's only forward.
Never.
No. I mean, there was one time where there was a
Okay.
little gray area for a couple weeks.
Okay.
But that's the only time that ever happened.
Okay.
And I feel like that was more on me being like, we didn't say, hey, let's talk about it. I was like more lonely and like having a tough time with the breakup. And so that's the only time that's ever happened. I was like, I will never be doing this again.
Yeah.
But most of the time it was like, all right, it's been some time. Let's catch up over coffee. In reflection, what do we have to tell the other person, whether it's apologies or reflections? And again, it's like these building blocks that you can go on respectively
Yeah.
and use without having to stay in contact or continue to chat with the other person. But you don't have the opportunity to do that every time. So when it happens, I think you have to like really appreciate it.
Totally.
Because it takes two people in very specific sets of circumstances to be open to that, for that to be a productive conversation.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about things that are in our control in dating and things that are out of our control, and areas in which we get to put effort in, and other areas that we really just get to let go, that don't really matter as much.
Yeah.
What would you want, women to know about that? That we think maybe is a big deal, that you're like, it's not a big deal. We don't care about that.
Like what I would personally think, or
Yeah,
what
do personal.
general, because I have, I was like, I don't know if I should say this as like
Say
a male
it.
dating coach.
Say it.
I think women spend a lot of time and money on their appearance that they don't need to, because I think health does 80% of looking good for you. So I think if you invest in your mental health and your physical health, it's like we talked about, when you're in your element and your aura, that's going to be the grand majority of what a man notices.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to, I don't know, have alterations or other things done, or you're going to the nth degree about this kind of makeup and spending this, along your skin routine. I'm not saying women can't do that, but I do wonder for women, in terms of limited time, where's the line of diminishing return for beautification?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if a man's like, wow, I like her because healthy is sexy, right?
Yes.
More than anything else. So if you invest in your health and maybe you use beautification as emphasis on that
Yeah.
versus your foundation,
Yeah.
and a man feels so at peace around you, and you can be playful to pull, because men are so hard on themselves. I know women are too,
Yes.
but men don't always share how they're bogged down. And the remedy for that is a woman who is interested in you or loves you and is just playful enough to help you forget your worries, right? It's and it's not even escapism. It's like an antidote.
Yeah.
Because people be like, "Oh, he's just escape." No, it's like an antidote. It almost hits the refresh button, and then as a man, you can go out and do whatever you need to do. And it's amazing that just like that peace in the presence,
Yeah.
and then just that connection or attraction. It's that simple,
Yeah.
truly. And so that beautification, again, beyond a certain point, I think is unproductive. And I think women could probably buy back some time and energy and worry from overdoing that.
And this isn't a curveball. Maybe this is more of an addition to, but my 95-something-year-old mentor that I went to years ago, she'd been on Oprah 6 times, Dr. Pat Allen. She's hilarious. She would say, men fall in love with their eyes and women fall in love with their ears. And then I heard someone else say, and that's why women will always wear makeup and men will always lie.
Yeah.
It's like, damn.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you think men do? I mean, you are visual based beings. Your attraction is based on what you see. But what I'm also hearing you say is how a woman really makes you feel.
Yeah.
Like about the man that you are.
Yeah.
And I've said it before, I've taught it this way many times. I say, I think every man secretly wants to be the superhero in their life. You know, you grow up watching Superman, Batman. It's like, these aren't characters, these are options. Like, I want to be like him. And if a woman can genuinely make you feel like you really are like the man who has hung the moon, you are like her superhero. And I don't mean like blowing smoke up your ass. I mean, for real, because she sees you. I feel like that captivates a man so quickly.
I think so.
Yeah.
But the variables are, okay, how young is this man? What kind of relationship experience he has? Because I think the less relationship or life experience you have, the more likely you're gravitating towards physical attraction. And I think attraction is an indisputable part of connection, especially in a man's eyes.
Yeah.
I think it should be in a woman's eyes too, just maybe it's weighted differently. But I think the pursuit of a relationship and the longevity and the quality of the connection is certainly what you're talking about, and other elements like that. So not saying that, women should never wear makeup and put a bag over their head.
Right.
It's just your looks may allure him, but your personality and your character will make him want to stay.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Could not agree more. You said just a second ago, men are really hard on themselves. What do you think men beat themselves up over the most? Because for us, a lot of it is like, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I have this kind of relationship with my family and maybe he won't like that. But a lot of it is looks based for us.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
I think for men, it's the provider bit is really tough. It's like, and it's not even just, am I making enough money? It's more like, am I capable enough, no matter the stress, no matter the challenge, to always find a way?
Yeah.
And do they see that potential in me? If my bank account was stripped today, if I got fired from my job, do they trust that I would figure out a way?
Yep.
I think that's a lot of pressure. And then and especially if there's like kids, dogs, a house, other things that they feel like entities or debts or assets they feel like they need to care for, then that amplifies that. And I think that's why we see perpetual singledom in some like metropolitan areas, is because men are like, man, I'm trying to like grind. I already have these things I'm paying for. I don't feel like I can handle the pressure of being responsible for entities outside myself. So I think that's a big one.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not so much look-based for you guys.
It is
or appearance.
too.
Okay.
That would probably be my second
But more about
choice.
what you can provide first. Okay.
I'm misquoting a bunch of different studies, but there was a cross-cultural, global study that showed that men were willing or didn't want to settle for women objectively on a rate of 1 to 10. less than 2 points above where they viewed themselves. So if he is a 4, he doesn't want to settle for less than a 6.
I got it.
But it's inverse for women, right? Like if they're a 6, they're willing to settle for a 4 in attractiveness. But I think it goes back to like, what do women and men value maybe from a evolutionary or a psychology standpoint, like the difference between us. And I think a lot of the reason of that for women is, well, if he can provide for me, if children are a part of the equation, if I don't have a stressful life, then it doesn't matter as much as what he looks like. So then they emphasize potential, intelligence, finances, opportunity, things like that. And then men are like, whether they know it or not, like all the childbearing features, right? Like, is this woman healthy? Would she be a good mother? Does she make me feel good? Like it's those are, I think, the other parts that study can encapsulate, right? Because they're trade-offs.
Yeah.
It's not just differences in values. It's like we seesaw in things. And it actually fits together perfectly when you look at the slight differences in perspectives.
Yeah. I love that. It's more about a woman's health. And I would say not just like what she eats and puts in her body and her exercise. It's also like her internal health, like doing her own work.
Yeah.
I would say too.
I hate to make this generalization, but I think it's true. A lot of the times, if you see some like just drop dead gorgeous woman, and the man is like super short and unattractive and doesn't have a good personality, it's like either she also doesn't have a good personality, and or he's has some sort of financial or provider
She
or
values
potential.
that more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same the other way around. If you see a man who's just an absolute stud, a unit, like 6'4" Captain America, and he's with a woman that's like noticeably more unattractive, it's probably he maybe doesn't have a great personality, and so he doesn't have success because women aren't willing to settle for a bad personality in that way,
True.
It's hard to tell from the outside, but I've
Yes.
noticed these patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And it's not that physical appearance is everything, but it's like the first thing you see. And so you have to piece the other things together because they're incognito.
Yeah.
So you have to infer and look for evidence and like make judgment, and where it's hard to make judgment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So good. Okay. Well, we've got 3 minutes. Anything else we want to throw out there before we wrap?
What should men worry about? Like, what do women actually care about when it comes to a man pursuing them and dating? And what do they not care about? Especially like things that maybe men think that they're supposed to do that in actuality don't matter to women.
Yeah, really good. Okay. So I'm going to speak for myself and what I teach. And I'm not saying women collectively as a whole all feel this way, but I'm trying to gear women to not care about certain things. So for me, I've talked about this so many times, but I have dated millionaires. I have dated men who make hardly anything. To me, I care so much more about a man's character above all else. And if a man, you can always date a man who has potential, in my opinion, as long as he sees that potential in himself. So like you were saying earlier, like if everything fell apart, can I trust and believe, like this man believes in himself so much, and I believe in him so much that he can get out from under whatever we fall into if we hit hard times. So I don't care if my man already has the $1 million business or what in the bank. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking, does this man have drive? Does he have passion? Does he have a good character? Like I've dated some of what I would consider some of the, hottest, just most like muscular, in shape, all the money in the bank, the house, the car, and their character was terrible. Terrible. So I'm looking more for that and the potential that we want similar lifestyles. Like that's important to me. It doesn't mean I'm going to I don't even want to use that term. I was going to say like date down. I don't even believe in that. But you know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm dating someone who doesn't have dreams and aspirations like I do, but he doesn't have to have it yet.
Yeah.
I also think women get to find out the unique ways in which they really feel loved. Instagram and social media has put it out there that, especially after Valentine's Day, I'm seeing my partner went all out and he bought me a car and a puppy and there's flowers everywhere. And it's like, yeah, all that's like fun and it's, romantic in a sense. we don't really need extravagant stuff. For me, like I love handwritten notes. If a man leaves me a love note, like on my car or on a pillow or on the, bathroom mirror, I feel so loved and seen. That means more to me than the, $6,000 Chanel bag.
Yeah.
But you've got to figure out your unique ways you want to be loved and communicate that with a partner, because that might not be natural for him. You don't have to find someone who's like, oh, great, I've been writing love notes my whole life. You just communicate the ways you want to be loved. But we don't really care. I don't really care about the money you have in the bank right now, how tall you are, what your size is. Like, I don't care. I want to know that you're a good man that has dreams and desires, and you want the same things I want. Like, you want a family, you want to be a husband. That matters more to me. And I, of course, want to be attracted to you, but it's not based on height or a six-pack,
Yeah, yeah. I
Character
think that's
matters.
really good for men to hear, because that's something that I say in a similar way. It's like, no, good women don't fall in love with potential. They fall in love with the fact that you are striving towards your potential.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of men don't believe that. So it's good for you.
True. It's
So
true.
you saying it is better than me saying it, right?
yes.
Because I could say it all day long, it doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
But yeah, that's great.
This has been so good. We could do this for another 3 hours easily. I
Yeah.
have 87 more questions I could ask you, but I know we're at time. So
save them for another
thank you
time.
so much for doing this with
course.
me and for bringing some of our secret conversations to the public. Where can people find you?
Bates Dates on Instagram and on YouTube. And then I have the book, The Dating Edge.
Yes.
And it was written for men, but I'm getting a lot of women who
Yes, get it. Women get a lot from this. 100%.
just, yeah. And it was so interesting, because as I wrote it, I was really trying to put myself in the shoes of men who needed it. But because women are little investigators, they love,
we
like,
are.
what is the other side of the coin? Like, what are men being told? And I've actually had women who've been able to filter out the wrong men and filter in the right men,
Yeah.
because they're seeing, okay, what do intentional men do in order to find a woman? How do they act? And so it's like that, reversing the research on the other side. So definitely that's on Amazon.
Okay, great.
And then Wife or Bust with Joel on YouTube is
Yes.
a really fun series to watch.
So good. Thank you again so much.
Yeah, thanks for
Really
having me.
appreciate it. Yes.
I know we'll have a lot more conversations.
We will.
So
More
hold
to
on to the
come.
87 questions.
Yes, yeah. I'll hold for now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yay.
See you guys.